All right, it looks like we're live. How's it going, RM? Do you want me to just call you RM, or is there?
No,
I can
yeah,
maybe we'll
that's fine.
just
That's cool. Yeah, that works for me.
welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and be on my channel. It's a great honor to have you here. I know a lot of people in the chat right now are excited.
Ooh, thank you for having me. Yeah, this is great. I'm glad we finally got it done.
Hell yeah, big guest, as we call them in business. It's a big guest.
A big guest. It's a big one.
So I have a variety of questions that I wanted to ask you here. I'm going to be looking at the notes app in my phone like a total dork the whole time, but right off the bat, to kind of break the ice, you might say, I have a bit of a fun question. So I've heard you, I guess this is a little bit of a two-parter. So I've
Hmm.
heard you talk a lot about treats, being a treat enthusiast. I have to
Hmm.
ask, what are your favorite, maybe like top three in no particular order treats from like your time as a young lad, and then what are your top three treats now that you have a more mature palate?
Well, first of all, you've revealed yourself to be Canadian. True or
Yes,
false?
this is
Okay.
true.
The treats. Oh my God. I mean, what I do is what I've noticed I do, probably most people do, is I have these like treat waves, where it's like you get
Yes.
stuck on one treat for a while. And the treat that I think I have been really stuck on for a while, maybe like months, is like basically like really recently it's just been like anything with chocolate in it, because I know that's like the most common, most obvious form, but I think I'm kind of like tricking myself into thinking that somehow it's like chocolate is healthy when I'm not eating like that. It's funny because like the healthy kind of chocolate tastes like garbage. And I'm not eating that. I'm eating like the sugar chocolate. So I don't
Yeah.
know, like there's all kind of little chocolate treats. I've talked about Charleston Chews before, which I think is like a
Oh
very
yeah.
stu it's a very stupid, funny candy. But like for a while, I was eating those like every day. I think I gained I gained a lot of weight at one point. It's probably partly because of that. But like it's really like the most cheaply made candy. It's terrible, but yeah, I just got like hooked on those stupid things for a while. And you can't even really get those anywhere. It's like an old-timey weird candy, you know. But yeah, I think I'm gonna start doing, that blood of the guy who's taking blood from his son. I think I'm gonna do
Yeah.
that. 'Cause,
It's
yeah,
like
I think I'm gonna
three
start.
generations of weird
Mhm.
vampiric elitists. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start doing that because, the treats have really been taking their toll lately.
You're gonna get a infusion of Charleston Chew.
Yeah, my Charleston chew, or I'm gonna have like someone else eat Charleston chews, and then I'll just infuse their Charleston chew blood into my blood, I guess.
You're like the guy from X-Men. You just suck the Charleston Chew out of their bloodstream and just absorb it.
Exactly, exactly. But I don't know. I like some of these more decadent treats. Like I live in a city where they've kind of lost their mind with treats. Like there's a place called Voodoo Donuts, which is just like it's just like pure decadence. It's these giant donuts that have like pretzels, just like weird stuff in them, and it's hard to know that that's like right down the street, and I
Like
can access that at any
like
time.
Pimp My Donut.
Hmm.
We put a lollipop inside of a candy cane, inside of a pretzel, and a donut. It's great.
It's madness. It's madness. It should not exist. It's an abomination. It should not exist.
I gotta say, because you mentioned like the treat waves, the thing that
Yes.
people around me have been annoyed with me about is recently I don't know how it started, but I have this, and I'm trying to lose weight, so it's absolutely terrible. I have
Mm.
this thing with ices. Like I
Mm.
had one, like my girlfriend just came in, she's laughing her ass off because she just heard me say that. I don't know what it is. They're just so good, and you need to find the place with the right icy machine, or else it's not, the consistency isn't there, you know?
That's so true. Like every time I go to like 7-Eleven, the Slurpee machine is out of order. Like there must be something about those machines that's just like impossible to maintain because they seem to break very easily. It's like the McFlurry machine or something. You know, they
Oh
cannot
man.
keep those things running.
I don't know if you know about the whole McFlurry kind of ice cream machine conspiracy thing, but it goes deeper than just the machine sucks.
I
It's actually
started
a whole conspiracy, you know.
I started going down that rabbit hole. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in the McFlurry conspiracies for sure.
Yeah. A little bit too much to get into here, but I would definitely recommend there's a couple good videos that kind of break it all down.
Thank
Um
God.
yeah,
Thank God.
the thing with the icy though is that I don't know how many other Slurpee or slushy type drinks are like this though, but it's one thing I found out is that it's carbonated. It's
Mm,
one of the reasons it has like that the kind of unique like sharpness to it.
yeah.
What makes icy so fucking good.
Oh
So,
God, they are really good. They are so good.
like I said, I'm trying to lose weight, so I'll try not to psychologically put myself in a pit here talking about treats all the whole time. But I'll go into some of the other questions here. So I feel like there's some obvious ones when you're interviewing someone. So we can get this out of the way. How exactly did you start doing the program as it is now?
It was really just like a 2020 pandemic thing when
Hmm.
I kind of felt like there was nothing else to do. I kind of was like, well, it doesn't seem like that big a deal to have a YouTube channel and upload videos regularly. Like, why not do that? I was thinking about that for a while, and then there was not much else to do, so I was like, all right, like I guess I'll just like totally commit to this. And I think I was uploading videos like every day, even weekends at some point. And I think that got me into the YouTube algorithm. And after that, it was just like much easier when they started pushing those videos out. I mean, it's very difficult when the algorithm doesn't help you.
Yeah.
But I guess I kind of worked my way into that, and yeah, they just started. I mean, I was like 1,000 new subscriber from like basically zero to like 1,000 new subscribers every day, and I was like, whoa, okay.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was for about a month. It was like shocking how that tripped the algorithm switch. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't I still don't fully understand it because it's mostly kept secret. But
Yeah.
yeah. So that's pretty much it. I was just like, I had nothing else to do.
I mean, hey, fair enough. I feel like YouTube, I've had a couple experiences with YouTube's algorithm. The best way I can describe it, like I don't understand it. You know, like you said, I don't think anyone does. It's one of those things that's like wrapped in an enigma, locked in a box in, I don't know, Susan Wojcicki's basement somewhere.
Hmm.
But one thing I've noticed is that the YouTube algorithm is it's almost like a crackhead. Like there's these very quick random bursts, and sometimes it can last like a couple days, but a lot of times it'll last a period of like a couple dozen hours. And
Mm,
sometimes it's sustained if you're, uploading a lot, like you were saying. But yeah, one thing I've noticed is that not only is it totally erratic, but it's like short bursts. And if that is sustained over a period of more than a couple days,
hmm.
that's YouTube like identifying you as like, oh shit, like people seem to like this. But
Yep.
it's so fleeting and it's so all over the place. It's almost impossible to predict or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a key to it, but I don't know.
Yeah, and people have like little tricks that they do, but nobody knows for sure what's going on. It's just you're trying to. I think YouTube is trying to make an attempt at just showing people what they want and trying to show content that's somewhat well produced.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, it's just robots and math trying to assess that.
Hmm.
So it's pretty erratic.
Moving on to some, I guess, stuff that I would expect pretty much anyone to ask you doing an interview like this. So the soundboard.
Hmm.
So the soundboard and the drops at this point
I love
are
you.
maybe you have a grasp on it when you see the comments and everything in the community, but the amount of quoting between me and my girlfriend and my friends, all of the drops, it's insane. And
that's very touching, actually.
it's hilarious because my girlfriend, who does not watch your content, she only kind of, is exposed to it secondhand through like me watching it and giggling like an idiot. Even she has like all these drops, something bad happens, we'll just be like, "You're terrible." It's infectious.
That's on YouTube. That's on YouTube.
Yeah, it most definitely is on YouTube. Yes. So my girlfriend just leans in. Yeah, that's her favorite drop. The "Where my unstable girlie's at."
Where my oh, that is a good one.
That's a high quality candy drop. Yes.
Yo, hell yeah! I mean, God bless Candy for giving us that.
Yeah, I mentioned it to you before we went live. You've inspired me, and probably countless other people do, use the soundboard. And I've been aware of soundboards before, but never before have I been witness to the power of it when it comes to making jokes, doing absurd non sequiturs. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I grew up listening to so I grew up in South Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm really basically stealing that from a talk show, very old school classic talk radio host who was really like the master of like all that crap, like it's a vibe that I feel very warm about, which is like this talk radio stuff. But yeah, it's this guy Neil Rogers, who is kind of like a bit of a shock jock kind of guy, and he would just like use the drops as like a as a shortcut to comedy, basically. And it's a cheat, but it's like people love it. I mean, I love it, and people love it, and it's like it's always worked. It's it's been a talk radio, a kind of trashy talk radio thing forever, and I love that vibe. And you can't lose with drops. I mean, it's just like anything out of context is gonna be kind of funny, and like
yes,
it's such a cheat, and it's so easy, but I love it, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's never gonna be not funny.
Mario in the chat says, "My girlfriend can't say sí, yes in Spanish without finishing K. Louis the comedian. It's that bad." Yeah, I'll say this.
K. Louis.
You have like, what they say about like a music producer from the 50s, like, oh, he can identify the next big hit when he hears it. I don't know what it is. You have the ability to find the best drops. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. Like I've studied it myself. Like, where do I find these drops? How do I pick the right drops? And there's a couple that I've discovered here and there that I've gone on to use quite a bit, and people like them. But it's like lightning in a bottle,
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like if somebody talks, like it probably in any conversation, like if two people talk enough, you can find something that if you isolate it, it's going to be weird and funny and hilarious. And like, it just, if you watch enough, especially if you're watching like nutty people online, it's going to be nonstop. I mean, obviously one of the masters is Alex Jones. I mean, he's like a machine. Like every 10th word, every 10th phrase he says, especially if you take it out of the context, is going to be just like the funniest shit, So it's like, yeah, it's fun. It's fun too to like try to find that stuff.
I remember I was telling somebody about this the other day. The first time I ever heard of Alex Jones, so my older brother sent me, probably when I was 10 or 11 years old, he sent me this documentary that Alex Jones made called The Obama Deception. And even as a child who had probably just barely entered middle school, I was like, what the fuck is this insane unhinged shit that I'm like, I was like, what the hell is this? You know, like what the fuck is going on?
I know. Yeah. I mean, I live in Austin. I've lived here for a while, so I kind of like experienced the. I've been to the place where Alex Jones like got a bit of his start, I guess. There was this like what would even, it's like a conspiracy bookstore that used to exist basically across the street from University of Texas. And I mean, look, it's all like, you know, it's weirdo stuff, you know.
I had sex with Bigfoot, the true story.
Yeah, exactly. But I would go to this bookstore like every once in a while just to like feel this vibe of like old Austin sort of, and like they would have books that would be like how to disappear, you know, like how to like not exist in society, like just weird stuff. And they would have like, they had a stage in the back and they would have like speakers come, and it was all like Alex Jones conspiracy people who were trying to be the next Alex Jones. And I remember, I think I've told this story before, where I had a bunch of like traffic tickets at one point, and I saw that they were doing a speech on how to get out of traffic tickets. So I go down to the speech, and the guy had a dog on stage with him, and the dog was named Law. So he kept saying like down law, like he controls the law. It was sort of weird. And then, but his prescription for dealing with traffic tickets is to overthrow the local government by means of armed force. So it's all stuff like that, where it's like you sense that these people are curious about the world, but all their prescriptions and all their mental energy is focused in the oddest possible places.
Yeah, I don't know. You're describing that to me, and I was like in my mind, I'm seeing like a set piece from like BioShock or something, with like these like old timey like figures like listening to some guy on a stage.
It feels like that. It feels like that, but the actual space is like, it feels like a like community improv theater or something. It was very old, rundown Austin, which is a vibe that I like. I'm almost sad that place doesn't exist anymore, because it was so of its time. It's so bizarre, you know, and that's sort of where Alex Jones came from, sort of, but like, yeah, he definitely was like a less nefarious character to a lot of locals at that time. But, you know, he's taken his turn, so what are you gonna do, you know?
I got a lot of people quoting drops in the chat here. One person is
crystal
asking.
Flute.
It's one of my favorite ones. I love that one. It always catches me off guard.
Oh yeah.
Somebody's asking, what kind of vape is that? I'm gonna guess that looks like one of like the kind of ones you just pick up at like the convenience store, where you're like, do you have nicotine? And then they just hand it to you. And you just
it's
walk
like
away.
The standard issue nicotine thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just one of those. I'm trying to ease back on that. I've been kind of shamed about it a little bit, but it's like, yeah, it's like everybody I know does it, and so it's like, you know, whenever I hang out with people, it's like, you know, we're just like manically vaping. So it feels like there's no way out. There's no way out at this point, you know. And I'm noticing weird psychological things about it, where you know, I'll be like out somewhere and I'll remember that I have the vape thing in the car, and I'll get like really excited. It's becoming a problem. It's becoming a bit of
a crystal flute
in my life. So
you Pavloved yourself with the vape. Yeah.
Oh my god. Exactly.
So, I have a couple drop specific questions now. I'm going to ask this first one, and then I'm going to modify it because I feel like it's a hard one. So I don't know if you could say, but I just put here, favorite drop of all time. If that's too hard, though, what's the favorite drop of the moment? What's like the go-to drop?
Oh, good question. Let me look at them. For some reason, because I kind of like those girls, what's her name? The girls who do the podcast.
Oh, Julia Fox and those
Julia
other
Fox.
girls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I kind of like that one, the every single person on the planet is gay one. I kind of like that. There's a new one where it's from the Trump Tucker Carlson interview where Trump seems really sleepy. He seems really sleepy, and he goes, "It's weird. It's weird.
It's weird.
It's
I love
weird."
that one.
Yeah, I love that. Oh man, you're about to be valutained. I really like too.
God, I can't stand Patty B. He's
Oh
so
man.
insufferable.
Oh man, yeah, jeez. It's baffling that people watch that because
Yeah.
every time I watch it, I do feel like I'm being like pressure sold a like used Honda Civic or something. You know, it's like people are willingly like of their own volition listening to telemarketing. Basically,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It's really frustrating. No, I totally agree. I always wonder, I'm like, how does somebody end up here? How do you wash upon the shores of valuetainment and not immediately start trying to build like a metaphorical raft to like another continent? Like, oh God, I gotta get
Yeah.
out of here.
It's so interesting how, I mean, I think with that, I think a lot of people like there's one of my favorite movies is Ed Wood, the Tim Burton movie. I think it's one of the more underrated Tim Burton movies. One of Johnny Depp's great performances, but there's a line in there where Johnny Depp playing Ed Wood says something like, "If you look good and you sound good, people will believe anything." And I think like on the internet, if you sound very confident and you sound like you really believe what you're saying, a lot of people will go along with it. And Patty B seems to have some of that. Alex Jones has it in excess, and I think that's sort of how YouTube personalities work now. It's like
Yeah.
and it's not a bad thing to develop. I mean, if you're like a YouTube person, if you could develop that voice, people will listen to you, you know. But it's like, yeah, a lot of people harness that, and it's like, okay, yeah, this sounds very convincing the way they're presenting this. But I feel like if you start looking into what they're talking about, and it's all kind of seems to be mush and rubbish, then maybe we need a little deeper analysis than just like this is convincing, you know.
Yeah, what I was thinking, and it's what I feel about a lot of these grifters, let's say. I know they don't like that term, but let's be real. Is any sort of production quality and speaking very confidently, even though you may be completely wrong, a la Tim Pool, you know, says he basically like lays out like this is what's going on, and then he scrolls down the page, and then his narrative is completely fucking destroyed because he failed to read the rest of the article, and he's so audience captured, and he's so busy trying to, you know, pull a double beanie spin on his half pipe that he can't actually like redo the video or plan out anything he's doing. But you know, there's some sort of production value, and they're speaking confidently, so people are just gonna buy it.
Yeah, I loved there was a clip that was going around. I think the Majority Report talked about it too, where his co-host, who I'm kind of sympathetic to him. He seems like generally a nice guy. Moon Lord, I think he goes by
Generally
Moon Lord.
speaking, yeah.
Generally speaking, he goes by Moon Lord. He had like a passionate outburst about he didn't want to wear a mask or something.
Yeah,
He was like,
yeah.
yeah, and I feel like that was maybe an attempt at this sort of like, I think that's another part of it is like, if you speak very passionately, you must know what you're talking about because there's so much emotion behind it. And I think he was making an attempt at that, but it didn't really track that well.
It seemed very forced.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like your damn dirty mask. It's like, whoa, okay. Just I don't know what you're doing to your mask, but yeah. It's just doing a little bit of in his mask while he's on break doing the live show.
Exactly. He's like shotgunning like Miller Lite through his mask or something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. How'd your mask get so dirty?
He's he's
They're
using it as
disposable.
he's using it as cheesecloth.
He's straining
They're
food.
reusable. I think, wash it, dry it out, use it as a cheesecloth.
Exactly. Yeah. Come on. What are you doing?
So, next thing I have here, another drop related question. Don't worry, they're not going to all be about drops, but I feel like I could give my opinion on this, but I want to hear what you think. What do you think is the most flexible drop in your arsenal?
Oh, it would probably be like the like gay, like that kind of stuff, or what? There's one where I think it's Tony Soprano saying "what" or something like that.
What?
It's just yeah, what? Those are just kind of you could use for anything, thing. It's just like a single word.
Like a reaction drop, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess the more advanced move is to like plan what you're saying around the drop. So it's like I really love the for one day, that guy who says for one day.
For one day.
For one day. That it's like I always want to say like come up with something where where for one day makes sense.
You want to work it in. You want to shoehorn it in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. I'll say this one that I find myself just no context. There needs no context. I find myself saying it a lot, and it's a newer one. Is the Trump indictment one? I did everything right, and they indicted me. I'll just be like doing chores, and I'll just say that to myself under my breath, and then just start laughing. I just love that shit. Like I don't know why, but just that is a premium Trump drop. There's a lot of Trump drops, but that one's great.
Well, that's one that maybe a lot of people are doing like a in real life drop with, because like if somebody's like, you didn't do this, or like you did something wrong, you say in your head, you're like, I did everything right. I do everything right, and they still indict me. It's but yeah, it like him and his son, Donald Trump Jr., they have this very constrained, it seems like a very difficult physicality where they're like, yeah, and they're very like up in the throat kind of, and it's like seems like a very tense way to go through life.
Before I have like three things lined up in my head, besides the stuff here, because you mentioned a few things. The last drop related thing, I don't know, we might get back to it, but one that I feel like came up and you used it, but I didn't see it that much, kind of seemed like it died off pretty quick, but I definitely will use it all the time, is Don Jr.'s I think it's Don Jr. where he's like something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
very
that's him.
strained.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know what is going on with his voice. He's almost like a reverse Jeff Goldblum, where Jeff Goldblum does these long, drawn out, like, like, well,
yeah,
and then he kind of speeds up. Like Donald Trump Jr. will do that. Like he'll just go into this really constrained, high pitch thing, something like that. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in his internal organs that manifests that.
It's cocaine. It's cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming
you saw
that
Cocaine Bear. He's Cocaine Man.
I think so. Yeah,
he's Cocaine Fail, son.
I mean, I almost like hope to God that it is, because if that's just your normal way of being, it seems a bit much.
Now I just remembered this. I didn't have it written down or anything, but I knew I needed to bring this up to somebody, and I realized this the other day. And I've never heard anybody mention it. And I want you, next time you're looking at a Vivek video or anything, just look at him and then close your eyes for 10 seconds and listen to him speak and tell me he is not another version of Charlie Kirk. He's got the Charlie Kirk face and head going on, and he sounds like him too.
He does, yeah. Yeah, he definitely does have that voice. It's a
sounds
bit
like
of
Chuck. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very Chuck-like. He does have a sort of whiny voice almost. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, they're definitely cut from the same cloth for sure.
He's like Charlie Kirk, and Pete Buttigieg, like mashed into one person.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you brought up The Sopranos. I'm actually in the process of watching it for the first time. I'm like halfway through season 2.
Oh, nice.
I wanted to ask, who is your favorite character from The Sopranos?
Oh my God.
I
Good
knew this was going to be
question.
a tough one.
Good question. Jeez. Oh, man. I mean, I do really like I obviously Carmela's pretty great.
Yes.
Just as an actor, I'm for some reason blanking on Christopher's girlfriend.
Adriana?
Adriana, I really like Adriana. Um, oh man, God, it's a good question.
I gotta say, personally, I really like Paulie. Paulie's a great character.
Holly's a great character. Um, uh, Stevie, what's Stevie's name in the show? Damn it, what's his name? I haven't watched in a couple of years, so I can't remember.
Stevie. I'm
Well,
drawing a blank here. Stevie.
right, little Stevie, isn't that? Yeah, Steven Van Zant. Let's see what his name was. What was his name?
Oh, the actor's name is Stevie. I'm like, fucking Stevie.
Yeah, he's a guitarist too with a Springsteen name and surprise. I can't believe I'm he might be up there. Silvio, sorry, Silvio.
Yes. Yeah, I think he's great too. Now I'm only, like I said, halfway through season 2, and I don't feel like
Yeah.
he's been given a lot of material on his own. But like
Mm-hmm.
the vibe I get from him is like he seems like the kind of person that like somebody like what's his name? Tony Montana is based on. The look,
Right.
the mannerisms, like I'm like he's like fucking Scarface. It's very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and there's just some like characters that maybe aren't that likable and aren't that prominent in the show. Like Janice is a pretty complex and interesting character. They're all pretty well written, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I gotta say, Janice, I can't stand Janice. She's a very interesting character.
Yeah.
Also, I can't stand Christopher, but I find his character to be, there's something about it that like pulls you in and you want to see like what happens to him, right? But I'm
Absolutely.
like, this guy's such a fucking piece of shit. But it's like, you know.
And I do just also from an acting standpoint, Johnny the actor who plays Johnny Sack is just he's got such a good look, and he really does seem like a mobster. He's good too. Johnny Sack is pretty great.
So back kind of like audio related stuff. I had that Sopranos question somewhere totally else, but I'm like, you know what? I'll ask it now. It got brought up. So could you give us a basic breakdown of like your audio setup that you use for the show? I have a feeling in my mind, like I'm thinking of it like it's like super complex, but I'm guessing it's probably not really that crazy. Probably some piece of hardware and an interface.
Yeah. So yeah, it is pretty simple. It's a Sennheiser MKE 600. MKE 600 shotgun mic, which like I don't know, I don't know if the sound is as good as like the SM7B like close to the face thing, but I kind of like don't get why more people don't use shotgun mics because it's out of your face, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't notice that much of a difference with sound. So yeah, shotgun mic, OBS, a really bad webcam that I need to replace. And that's pretty much it. For the editing, I use the Adobe stuff, which I actually, it's the first time allegedly that I've actually paid for it, and it's much easier. It's much easier when you pay for it because you get a million different programs and it updates and all that stuff. So yeah, I love it. I love it. And but a lot of the stuff I do need to replace, like the good shotgun mics can get really expensive. They get into the like $1,500 range, you know. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's it.
One thing I want to ask too, because it seems like I don't know if this is the case. I'm just assuming. Do you have a hardware and then a software soundboard that you switch between using based on what you're doing?
Yeah. I use a software one, and there's like a million of them. I think they're pretty easy to find. But I did find a used SP404, which is an actual real hardware Roland sampler.
Yep.
That isn't very, very cool. I mean, it's like an amazing instrument, you know. There's so much you could do with it, and I don't really do anything with it except for play like short samples. But yeah, hardware samplers are very cool.
Yeah, I love when you do the live streams and you start off and you take some samples and you'll play them and then you'll kind of manipulate the pitch, do a delay, add some reverb, kind of fuck with it. I love that shit. It's great.
Okay. Yeah. Let me see if I can do one now. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, obviously that thing, yeah, it's amazing.
I feel like a magician is showing me his bag of tricks. He's going to have to kill me afterwards so I don't tell anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I'm just like in the baby stages of learning all the weird stuff that this thing can do.
So kind of alongside the audio type questions, I wanted to ask, do you produce any music currently or have you previously? Like originally, because I'm an idiot, I thought like some of the music that you used in your program, you made yourself. And then I realized later that decent amount of it is actually the YouTube audio library, which I found by going through it and trying to find music myself. I'm like, oh, here's all the fucking great ass tunes that you've been using. I'm like, this is fucking great. They're all here.
Yeah, those are really good. I mean, a lot of the times, like somebody sent me this clip and I forgot that I did this, but it was Joe Rogan asking his producer to pull that. He's like, can somebody pull that up? Like he says, somebody pull that up. And like I made like a little like beat out of somebody pull that up and like mixed in like Alex Jones, so it's almost like a house music song or something where it's like has these little samples that keep repeating. And like for that, the YouTube audio library is perfect because you could just get like a well-produced simple bass beat and then just like put whatever you want over it. But so that's really good. Everybody should look into the YouTube audio library. There are really talented people on there who deserve to be recognized and all that stuff. But
I agree 100%.
Yeah, but I have been working on a music project that's going to be like a live thing. Ooh. And I found out that people will know who I'm talking about, but maybe I'll just keep it semi-secret. Basically like a hardcore music legend who has an idea. We both have like ideas for like live music that we're actually going to do like some live shows with actual like music that we've produced, and I think it's going to be like pretty funny. So
that's awesome.
Like, yeah, never even talked about that. So it should be cool. It should be interesting.
So I have to clarify, because once you get into certain subgenres and genres of music, it can get a little vague. When you say hardcore, do you mean like European electronic or more kind of like hardcore band, like metal type stuff?
Yeah, like more hardcore, guitar, metal type stuff. Yeah, like
because
punk.
Like there's so many different genres that have like the people just say, oh, it's hardcore, and if you know anything about like the European kind of dance scene, hardcore means something completely different.
Totally different. Right. What does hardcore What does hardcore music in that sense sound like?
Um, so I don't people who listen to the various different subgenres, and some people might say hardcore is one subgenre of this or that. Uh, Colloquially, I would say a lot of people kind of group it together under what is called to a lot of people they'll just refer to it as hard style.
Mm,
So what I would recommend looking up is, a lot of people would probably kill me for using this as an example, but he's kind of one of the well-known names who's been around for a long time. I would say Anger Fist. Go look up like an Anger Fist album or an Anger Fist set. It's the very fast, like 150, 170 or faster BPM music with the
right.
very distorted, like boom, kind of like kicks, you know.
Right, right. Okay,
Very
okay, cool. Yeah.
crazy super saws, yeah.
Okay, I get the feel. Okay,
hmm
cool. Okay, that makes sense.
This actually is very interesting because I was going to ask you. I myself make electronic music, house music, and stuff like that. And I want to ask you, because you seem to have very eclectic taste in music, is there any dance music or house music or anything like that that you listen to? Any artists in that kind of zone that you are a fan of? Anything at all like that?
Yeah, like especially for house, I definitely went down a rabbit hole with like hip house, like Cake the Killer. I don't know if you've ever heard
I've heard the
any
name.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting stuff. For other dance music, what else have I been listening to? I do like some of the like. I guess maybe this goes more into the like hyper pop stuff, but I've been listening to a few Earth Eater songs over and over again. That's been sort of around for a while.
I'll have to look into that because I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, Earth Eater is pretty interesting. If you want like a really poppy song, there's a song called Super Soaker that kind of was big for a while. That's a good, really good, well written pop song. I don't know. What else for dance music?
I would say
I don't
generally
know.
too, just any electronic music, you know.
Yeah, I'm big into some of the older electronic stuff like Chris and Cozy. I don't know if you've ever listened to Chris and Cozy.
Can't say that
It's
I have, no.
Yeah, so there's a really great I mean there's like I don't know if you know like throbbing gristle, like early industrial music, like if anybody likes that kind of stuff, like Chris and Cozy was sort of like going to a more extreme electronic experimental stuff, but it's been around for a while, and it's the kind of the front person for that group is a really smart writer too. She's written some really interesting books. I would check that out. Chris and Cozy has some
Yeah,
really wild stuff.
I'm gonna be going back through this stream, and I think the first act you mentioned, I've definitely heard, but the rest of these are, I can't remember ever hearing these acts before, so I'm gonna have to go through and make a list and check all this stuff out. Um,
Definitely.
I want to see
Yeah,
if
if
there's
you have any
anything.
recommendations for me, I'd love to hear them. I mean, I'm gonna go check out Anger Fist for sure.
It's hard for me to give a recommendation that I don't feel would be like super weird, because I listen to a lot of like very kind of specific kind of club stuff, and um I do listen to quite a lot of different electronic music, but my wheelhouse, I guess you might say, is I don't know if this means anything to you, but tech house,
Sure, yeah.
G house stuff that's coming out of kind of the Brazilian bass scene.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I do like that stuff, yeah.
it's great, yeah.
That's a
So
good, yeah, that's a good sort of thread to follow. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in that genre for sure.
yeah, one thing that I'm a little I don't know. One thing that's unfortunate is that at first it was cool because in the DJ scene, I would say the last 3 years probably, um, tech house has basically taken over, and that was cool at first, but it, you know, the mainstreaming of anything that's good on a more underground level, it always leads to like, you know, like if you're the type of person who's looking for new music, like just delving into the sea of like everything out there,
Mm-hmm.
then something being mainstreamed like that, there's just so much stuff that comes out that you have to kind of like wade through to get to the gems. And it's unfortunate because I don't want to necessarily say like, oh fuck these people, they're riding a trend, but what I can say, at least from my own perspective, for sure, is that when I listen to a lot of the music being made by people who never gave tech house any attention until it became a trend,
Mm-hmm.
is it doesn't have that feeling to it, you know? It feels like I'm going to make a song that sounds like this instead of somebody actually making a song that sounds like the song that they want to make, if that makes any sense at all, you know?
No, yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. Like also like, when something becomes a genre instead of like somebody just experimenting or like trying things, when it becomes a genre, it can kind of become flattened a lot of the time. You
Yeah.
get you get people who are basically like making copies of copies sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate because you'll have like a new genre that's like basically forming as you're listening to it, and you're like, "Oh, this sounds so good," but especially now with sample packs and sites like Splice
Hmm.
and every, music YouTuber is like, "Here's how to make this sound from this popular song." Like you said, there's like a flattening out, or almost like it's like butter that's spread too thin. You take these
Hmm.
interesting conventions and then it's just repeated ad nauseum until it's like you don't want to hear that anymore because you've just heard it recreated without any sort of interesting flair or anything, you know. I would say like growls in electronic bass music. There's been a problem for the last decade with that, you know. How do we evolve the kind of like growls that are used in like dubstep, electronic trap, drum and bass? And unless you have people who are interested in spending a lot of time doing sound design and potentially coming out the other end with like nothing, if you
Yeah.
don't find anything good, then, for a lot of people, it's like, I'm going to get this sample pack that's made to sound like this producer, and then I'm going to plug it in. And, I've definitely done that in the past. I've been making music for a while. And when I started out, I was definitely guilty of that. But, I'm getting to the point where, like, I canceled my Splice subscription. I don't want to, I'm kind of very iffy on, using like anything beyond, like certain drum samples. You take a hit and then you kind of mix it and then change it up. Because what people do is they'll take those, like a melodic sample, for example, put it in a song. You put that song on DistroKid. Now, any song that uses that sample, even though you have the right to use it, it comes with the royalty free pack or whatever. The person who put up the song first that has a sample in it is now copyright claiming every other
Mm.
person who makes a song with that melodic sample in it, and it's like, fuck.
Well, that's kind of a sketchy move. Sort of just claiming something. Well, yeah, that's an interesting thing because a
Well, it's
lot
an
of you.
automatic process. It's
Oh,
there's
right, right, right.
like the best way I can describe it is somebody uses like somebody makes like a 16 bar melody loop,
Mm-hmm.
and they take it off Splice and somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to use this in my song." And when they put that song out and they distribute it, YouTube Content ID comes along with it. And a YouTube Content ID is not going to claim like a drum sample or something. It's too almost like fleeting, almost like a transient in the rest of the song. But a long melody loop, if multiple people are using that and it's not being changed, then, like you can literally go onto Splice, open up a list of samples, and then just hit Shazam while you're playing the sample, and it'll be like, yes, this song used this. And it's like, can't use any of
Oh,
these now.
it's amazing. I mean, I guess I'm okay. I don't have too much of a like ethical problem or whatever with people like adopting, styles or parts of or certain sounds that they like, but like if you put your own twist on it, I think that's what
Yeah.
makes it interesting. Like even like there's a lot of maybe like derivative stuff and like
Oh, yeah.
100 gex or something, but they do put like a twist on it that's you know fun and their own and like that kind of
Yeah.
makes it something new. You know, I was listening to an interview with the lady from Royal Trucks, which was like a you know, a sort of a rock band in the 80s, 90s and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, she was talking about how that she just wants her music to be like almost like a puzzle of like all the stuff that she likes just put into her own mixture, you know. And I think that that's like, I think that's fine to do, you know, because we all listen to music and we all like look at stuff, and I think it is cool to just like put your own combination together. But I guess it's a bit, I don't know, it's sort of like almost like the fair use argument. Like, when does something become just copying, and or just you're just replaying someone else's stuff? I mean, they're having this argument now in public about our React channels, or some of these React channels, fair use if somebody's just like sitting there watching a video. And you know, I think like we're constantly figuring out like what is transformative, like what transforming something actually means, and it's like a very blurry line, I think.
I just want to mention quick, somebody in my audience, Lord your God, they just donated $3. They said, "Hey RM, big fan, keep sniffing."
Oh, I wish I had that one.
Oh,
I'll do that one instead.
I love you.
We'll say
I love you.
to them.
Yeah, just quickly to respond to what you're saying, and then I'll get on. I have some other questions here. I don't know how much time you have, but I think some of the biggest things, the biggest and easiest, or maybe is a better way to say it, easiest ways to tell whether or not something qualifies for fair use, and obviously it's a legal thing. You have to be some sort of, you know, lawyer or a judge or something to have any sort of credible opinion on it. But I would say the biggest things to me would be, is it affecting the original market? Like,
Right,
for
that's a good
example,
one. Yep.
for example, if somebody wants to go watch a Candace Owens video and they really like Candace Owens, they're not going to get anything but probably annoyed by watching you rip on Candace Owens. Like,
Exactly.
that's
Right.
not a replacement. They can't get their Candace Owens fix from watching you rip on her or anybody else, you know?
Yep. It's not gonna. It's not enough. It's definitely not. I'm not like cutting into her
Yeah.
market. I mean, for that, it would have. I mean, it would have to be like somebody like, I really want to watch Candace Owens, but I want to watch someone talk for 10 minutes in between. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Also, you know, we do have this legal framework that allows you to respond, especially with like political works or like news events and stuff like that.
Commentary, criticism, yeah.
Yeah, if you're criticizing something, if you're responding to something, that to me is like a basic, that's one of the sort of basic ideas behind free speech, is that there's like a dialogue involved. If somebody says something, you respond to it, you know? But people are blurring that line. Like, if, you know, if somebody is just playing a video and saying like, oh, that's crazy, like, how are we really responding to this? Are we really having a dialogue with this, or or is this really actually just an alternative place, like you were saying, an alternative place to watch that original content?
Well, I don't want to stick on this too long, but I feel like it's something that is very clear when you actually get down to what constitutes fair use and you read the guidelines. Like this whole XQC thing, where he like played some guy's video about the walled city, and then he just got up and like fucking left the room and just let the video play. It's like, that is clearly not, clearly does not constitute fair use. Like, he's not adding anything, but on top of that, you know, like you were saying about somebody sitting there and just going, wow, oh, interesting, like, that is a reaction on the most technical, you know, like, okay, I'll gotta give it, it's a reaction, sure, but there's no, like you said, there's no commentary, there's no criticism, there's no substance there that's being added. And another big part too is, how much of the person's original video are you showing, and is it edited? Are you just showing their video in its entirety, you know? And a lot of examples where these people are clearly just they're basically just looking for content fodder. And
Exactly.
you could say that with anybody who does any sort of reaction content, but with somebody like XQC, I don't watch his content, but I've seen enough examples. He's clearly just like, okay, I'm going to do 8 hours of streaming today, and I'm going to actually put in like 1 hour of work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the rest is like, let's just watch this video. And it's like, that's clearly not fair use.
Yeah, and one thing that I saw that he does is he'll watch like TikTok videos and just sort of like laugh at them. And it's like part of it does feel like he's almost like curating, like he's almost doing like a TikTok DJ thing or something, but I don't know. The line does blur a little bit, but in terms of just like what, I mean, if you get permission from somebody to just kind of watch their video on stream just because they want exposure, I guess that's one thing. But I think you're exactly right. Like it is a way to fill time, and you're not.
Yeah.
And in the end, like the whole thing about being able to react to play clips of a video and to like comment on it and to criticize it is that there's like a public interest in like having a dialogue with people who are saying things. That obviously doesn't really exist when you're just playing it and like maybe laughing over it or something, you know?
Exactly.
So the intent, the intent, like the societal good doesn't seem to be there.
I don't want to spend too much time on that, so I got a bunch of other questions. By the way, if you need to head out at any point, just let me know.
Maybe like 10-15 minutes. I don't know. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's totally up to you, man. I understand you're very busy. It's honestly one of the next things next question I had here was, how do you write and edit this very topical content so quickly, and do you ever feel burnt out? I know at one point, I definitely assumed that a lot of what you did was on the fly, but I've watched your content, so I've seen you say at least once, probably more than once, that a lot of this you actually will set up, you'll look at it, you'll write it down, you'll kind of craft how you're going to do this. And to me, it's like, it's mind-blowing because, you'll put out a 15, 20, 30-minute video 5 times a week, and it's like the amount of, looking around for stuff. Okay, I think I'm going to say this, record it, edit it, re-record stuff, put it all together, make sure it's out on time, do all this stuff, like, it's crazy, and I'm just honestly very impressed. But like, yeah, like, do you feel burnt out ever? How do you manage that, honestly?
Yeah, I do feel burnt out sometimes, but I luckily it's not as bad. Like the burnout is not as bad as I've experienced with like some other jobs, because I'm, it goes a long way if you're talking about things that you care about, and it goes a long way if you're doing things that you kind of enjoy. Like I actually like editing video, and obviously there's a lot of like, it's completely like self-directed, and I can do silly creative things in it, so that actually limits burnout a lot, which is, it's a thing that we don't talk about a lot, with work, the type of work you do is going to affect that too. But it's also, I think, like, there's like a physical burnout too with working, and it sounds very basic and stupid, but like the better you take care, like I go through periods where I'm not taking care of myself as much. I'm not like watching my diet. I'm not exercising enough and all that stuff. And that affects burnout too. Like it's really really dependent on that. Like, if you're like operating at a low energy level because you're eating a lot of bad food and like, all that kind of bullshit, like for me, at least, it's way easier to burn out. So yeah, I don't know. It's like that's sort of the ideal combination, is to like just take care of yourself and be doing something that provides some, intrinsic intrinsic like value to you, just doing it is like that's kind of the way to avoid the like real difficult to recover from burnout, I think.
It's a good buffer. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was blown away too because I don't know if you're still doing it, maybe a little personal, but I remember a while ago you said you were working a day job too, and I was like, holy fucking shit. Like, I aspire to be on this level of just grinding and putting out excellent content, but also like having all this going on. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Very impressive, I'll say that.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. I mean,
Your inspiration.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. No, I mean, definitely like, people cringe. I cringe at the sort of like hustle culture stuff, I don't know if you see a lot of that in Canada,
Oh,
but like,
yeah. No, the internet's global, so we're all
exactly.
You speak English or you're in the English. I mean, it's probably gone past the English speaking parts of the internet. We're all subjected to this shit,
Yeah, I mean, but like, I do think like if you're really like into something, if you're really passionate about something that's meaningful to you, then it doesn't feel like, because the hustle culture, rise and grind culture stuff seems to revolve around things that are kind of meaningless, like
Yeah.
crypto scams and weird sort of like financial trickery and
One
like
weird trick to get you a Lamborghini. Doctors hate this guy.
one weird trick and like things that don't really work, like weird drop shipping schemes and all that stuff. And like, yeah, like if you, I don't know, like if you're devoting a lot of energy to something that you care about, I think that that's a really good thing. If you're rising and grinding and hustle culturing on something that's like kind of meaningless to you, that seems like it seems kind of tragic.
I feel like there's a good segue into I definitely want to get one of these questions out of the way before we ended this. Who do you think is the most disingenuous grifter out of everyone? Like, let's look at like the right-wing griftosphere. Who do you think is the biggest shame, or I should say the most shameless liar in terms of just saying absolutely nothing that they actually believe and they're just in it for a paycheck? Might be a hard one to parse out like one answer, but who do you think's the worst in your mind? Just saying like don't even care about what they believe. They're just audience capture. Just, all right, let's say this, make money.
Well, I just uploaded a video. I don't know, because yeah, there's so many of them, but I did upload a video where it's really funny because Jordan Peterson is doing this thing where he's fighting fighting one of your licensing boards, which is the Canadian sort of like psychology board, because they're basically saying if you don't take a social media class, basically like a social media etiquette class, we're going to have to take your license away because you can't go on social media and say things that are like completely, I mean, at a base level, like completely against what a therapist or a psychologist should be saying to patients.
If you don't like it, then you can just shuffle off this mortal coil for all I care. It's like, damn, Jordan, what the fuck, man?
Even his daughter, I like that. Even his daughter, like, had to laugh at how harsh that was.
She always has to rein him in. She always has to like step in and be like, "No, this is too far.
This is Dad. Come on, Dad. Bring it back a little bit." But I think it's funny that like, his whole thing in the beginning was like, you have to accept your place in a hierarchy and understand that there are people above you who know better than you and who have earned their way up this hierarchy. And here he is in a body of professionals, who regulate an industry that an area of practice that should be regulated, because you don't want lunatics giving people brain advice, and he totally rejects being part of this hierarchy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's good for you, but not for him for some reason. Yeah. And that should be a little bit of a clue to how committed he is to these ideas when it comes to his own life. I mean, it's like, yeah, you're literally like resisting having someone
Yeah.
who's has a higher position than you telling you what to do.
Rules for thee, but not for Geordie, as he might say. You know?
Exactly right. I was like groping for that in my mind, and you just absolutely dunked it. Yes.
Do you know who I am? I'm on the internet.
Yeah.
It's like Oprah trying to get into the grocery store like 2 minutes after they close.
Exactly right.
I want to ask you a couple quick questions before you have to head out. I'm just going to do a lightning round here. Are you a gamer, and if so, what are you playing right now?
I wouldn't call myself a gamer, but I have been playing that new Zelda game.
Ooh.
Tears of the Kingdom, right? That's what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah.
My girlfriend is addicted to it, yeah.
Oh man, I think it really lives up to its hype because it's like it looks really cool. It's got a sort of like interesting like spiritual mystical vibe to it, but it's basically like a puzzle game in the end. Like you solve these little puzzles basically the whole time, sort of like the original Zelda, where people are like, oh, how do I get through this little thing? But it has this layer of sort of like this like little mystical thing on top of it, which it's very cool. I think it's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is a question that I feel like nobody has a good answer for, so I really want to know. I want to hear what you think. So what do you think? Do you think Tim Pool has one singular beanie, or do you think he has a collection of identical beanies, like a cartoon character that he just cycles through? Like he finishes a day, he takes off the sweaty beanie, he throws it into the hamper, he picks up his other beanie, and he just rests it on his desk so he can grab it as soon as he jumps out of bed in the morning. What do you think's going on there?
Man, yeah, I wonder because he is, like a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
But he's also like there's videos that show the house that he lives in, which is like it's a massive compound, so clearly it's expensive, but it does have a very sort of like tasteless.
He's very he's very Trumpian. Like no matter how much money he has, he still wants that McDonald's meal, and he's like, I'm gonna fuck. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it is the correct move because if you're, lavishly wealthy, you don't want to sort of show people how fancy you are, But I wouldn't be surprised if there's just one beanie because he doesn't seem to put a whole lot of effort into the look or the, you know what I mean? It's just like. Yeah. It's kind of it's a bit basic. It's sort of weird to try to figure out like what his audience what their taste is. Like do they think it's like cool that he dresses like a skateboarder from the late 90s? Like what do they think? Or they think he's like a young person or something? I don't really it's hard to decipher.
Maybe this is totally off base, but the insight that I feel like I kind of gained from just working, through the pandemic is like, here's an example. When I was working in like weed stores here in Canada during the pandemic, you'd have people come in and they like the environment, especially older people who've never had it like throughout their entire lives. You'd have like these right-wing people come in and they'd be like, oh yeah, let me buy this weed. And then they launch immediately into a conversation with you where they kind of corner you because like there's this idea where it's like, I can corner this minimum wage worker or whatever. Weed stores aren't minimum wage, but it's like a couple dollars more. But my point is mostly that like they think that they have you in a situation where you have to listen to them and just go like, oh yeah. But, we don't put up with that shit, or at least me and the people that I worked with, they come in and start talking about like anti-vax stuff, and we just be like, is there anything else we can help you with? And like in moments like that, what I realized is that most of these people, unless they are living with a partner who agrees with all the crazy stuff that they believe, is almost certainly most of or all the people in their lives don't want to hear that shit.
Right.
So I think with Tim Pool and a lot of these other figures, these people who are watching them, they don't even really like them. they're just so desperate for somebody to validate the stuff that they're saying that
Hmm.
even if there's somebody who, for years was like, fuck skaters, they're losers, they'll still listen to Tim Pool and put up with him being like a wannabe skater bro because they're just so desperate for that validation because they can't get it from anybody in their own lives. And I don't know, I could be wrong about that, but I feel like that's a big part of it, you know?
No, I think that's exactly what's going on. There's like, there's these certain personalities who will say the things that certain people want to hear, and
Yeah.
yeah, those people will latch on to it basically no matter who they are. I mean, I even feel like, I've made fun of Steven Crowder's videos, so I've watched a ton of his stuff. And when I watch that, I'm like, I really don't, it just seems impossible that anyone could sit through this level of content. I mean, because it really is pretty poorly produced in that, I mean, it looks good, it's professionally produced, but it's poorly, I guess it's more like poorly conceived, because they'll go on these like 15-20 minute just like improvised banters that really aren't funny. They add up to nothing. But as long as he's saying like, racist shit or whatever, like they're there for it. It's they're willing to like really sacrifice quality for that validation, I guess.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. I've noticed the vibe with Steven Crowder's content, like all the other people there. They seem like they're off in like some other room because they don't even want to be in his presence. And it's just so uncomfortable. It's like, oh, cue to laugh because Steven said some dumb shit. It's like, oh, ha, 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 yeah. And it's just, I'm like, this is so awkward. Like, how the fuck does anybody watch this and not realize like how fucking uncomfortable everyone is?
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. Especially with like those stories coming out about how it's like, I was really thinking like, it's bizarre to be an employer and you're paying people to show up and you to treat it like it's like a frat or something. It's just like a very basic misunderstanding of the real world and like how life works. That those people are that those people are in a professional relationship with you.
I think I think that stems from these guys like Steven Crowder just being like awful, unlikable people. So they've never had and don't currently have that sort of camaraderie or, kind of like semi-intimate relationship like you would have with a close friend. They can't or just don't have those. So they need to force the people around them into that because they, like it's almost like a hierarchy of needs type thing. Like you need that kind of interaction with people. You can't just have this cold like business relationship with everyone. You got to be friendly and joking around and dicking around with somebody in your life, right? Unless you're like, I don't know, Angela from The Office, just stone faced, just like never humored by anything. But that's what it feels
Yeah.
like to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah. But if you're imposing something that could even be conceived as like harassment or a violation of people's like personal space and stuff like that, I think that's where you get into the territory of like, you're really, because it's fine if you're like friendly with people at work and you joke around and you keep the atmosphere light. I think that's like a great thing to do. But when you're like,
It's a fine line.
yeah, but yeah, when you're like, hey, around here we like grab each other's, we give each other little pinches on the in the bathing suit areas. It's like, yeah, you're really not understanding how this dynamic it works. That's
Listen, Arun, when you're working for Steven Crowder, there's no punch clock, there's no sign-in sheet. You immediately go into his office and you nut tap him. That's how you sign in. That's how you sign in for your day at work.
clock starts running with the first nut tap. Exactly.
Yeah. Just two quick questions here before I let you go. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No
Who do you think
problem.
who do you think would be more destructive if they actually became president, Trump or DeSantis?
Oh, that's a good question. Hmm.
Because
I mean,
we know what Trump would do, but
yeah. Well, I mean, part of me thinks that it would be equal because there's more of the problems that we're seeing are running maybe a little bit deeper. But I do think DeSantis is he's I think maybe there's something to the analysis that he's maybe more committed to total destruction. I mean, well, I guess they both are, you know. But I don't know. Maybe I would lean more toward DeSantis because he just is like, he just does seem like a completely soulless vessel. Maybe, you know. But it's like,
I agree.
Maybe it's maybe it's a toss up.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the most compelling argument that I've heard or point made, I guess, would be that DeSantis is way more, or seemingly, I guess I would say, more focused, and it seems like he has more of a vision, like a project in his mind of things he wants to do. Trump is way more chaotic, you know.
Yeah,
I feel like DeSantis is more calculated, and also just he's smarter, but in like a dorky kind of way. Like Trump is more cunning in the moment. DeSantis is he's a little scary.
Yes. DeSantis seems very committed to fraud, like being a fraud. He's really willing to prey on people who are confused and vulnerable to bigotry and hatred. Like he's very, very ready to. I mean, Trump is too, but DeSantis seems like, I think maybe like you're saying, like a very focused, like a laser beam focused on very fascisty stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, just one last question before we head out. Might be a little bit of a weird one, but I wanted to ask you this. I want to get your insight. I've noticed that there's a big, and I didn't notice how big it was at first, but there's a big cross appeal when it comes to political commentary and lolcow content. Are you familiar with this whole kind of sphere of lolcow content? Are you aware at all of what that is?
I might need an explanation on what exactly you mean by lolcow content.
You were talking before about how
Lolcow.
people get interested in these wacky characters that are in some way real people. You know, you think of characters on the Daily Wire. You know, it's not actually, obviously, they're 100% real personality, but they kind of become these kooky characters. You know, Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, they become kind of memed.
Right.
When it comes to the lolcow stuff, I guess the easiest shortcut to this would be, are you familiar with Chris Chan?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the easiest kind of case study or whatever there. Somebody on the internet who is unintentionally kind of made themselves a bit of like a celebrity or like an anti-celebrity figure through being a strange kind of individual. I wanted to ask,
people are just sort of like morbidly fascinated with.
yes.
Yeah.
Because I cover, you know, I do some political commentary on my channel here, but I also cover some lolcow stuff, and I thought about it at first and I was so confused because I'm like, on one hand, it seems that the political commentary stuff is a completely different ball game. You know, it's this semi-serious or sometimes very serious stuff talking about geopolitics or talking about social issues and all that. And then you contrast that with a 1 hour documentary about a guy who's, I don't know, so goofy and silly that he has people like doing like I don't know, like commentaries, like it's almost like a sports game, people doing like blow by blows of this wacky person online who's documenting all the zany stuff that they get into. And at first I was very confused, but then I thought about it, and I don't know if I'm thinking about it in too reductionist terms here, but there's almost this parallel with these wacky characters that, like you said, people get this morbid fascination with, and politics and this kind of sphere of, as they're called, lol cows. It's interesting because there's so many people who are not really liked seemingly by anybody or by very few people, but
Mhm.
they have, as I said a moment ago, almost like this anti-celebrity status. And I've noticed that with a lot of political commentary, and
Mhm.
I've seen that parallel. Like, I'll be in the comments section of you or like a bunch of any other creators, you know, Kyle Kalinske or this person or that person, whatever. And I'll see these people's accounts commenting, and their profile picture is like this, it's like Chris Chan or some other zany lolcow or something. So like, I don't know, but
Mhm.
just like, what do you think of that? This big crossover that seems to exist there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. I mean, the Chris Chan example is such like a perfect example of like a specific new kind of celebrity that is not like aspirational, maybe one might put it.
I've heard it
Like
put the other way. Like, people will watch these lol cows and be like, "God damn it, I need to go shower and brush my teeth." You know, it is aspirational, but in kind of like an opposite way. You know,
it's motivational in
yeah,
some
it
yeah.
inspires you to not be like them.
Exactly. Well, there's people, I think it's just because it's also like, you know, there's been a thing on the internet forever where people do have this fascination with things that are just slightly off
Hmm.
or like off in some way that's like kind of irresistible. Like review bra is probably in maybe in the genre you're talking about, where he's just like incredibly odd in a way that is like irresistible. You know, it's like
Hmm.
you have to look at it because it's just so strange.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely something there. I guess like at where the crossover into like political stuff happens is that definitely, I mean, for me, like somebody like Tim Pool is incredibly odd. I mean, maybe he's
Yeah.
my like Chris Chan or something, you know, like it's just like you just want to know like how did this happen? Like what do you really believe? Like like how does this, who is this like what is
What's
this,
under
you
the
know?
beanie? What's really
Yeah,
under there?
exactly.
What's
There
he
is like a
hiding?
yeah, I think you're right. It's a really interesting thing. I've thought about it before. It would definitely be a good book topic of this like non-aspirational uh celebrity that is like so popular now.
Hmm. I guess
Yeah.
a good kind of parallels. You're talking about Ed Wood earlier, and at the time, it's like
Exactly.
everyone's like, "This who fucking cares? He makes shit movies." But as he's
Yeah.
kind of recontextualized throughout the years, there's this fascination, not because he has any sort of like, you know, real talent or skill or knack for this or that, but it's almost like this fascination with, holy fuck, like this guy made like these terrible movies, but they're just so entertaining. You know, Tommy Wiseau is kind of
I
like
was gonna
that
bring up
too.
Tommy Wiseau. Yeah, where it's like it's something that's so it's so against all the what's considered good and skillful art making that it's almost a like a release of some kind. You feel like you're like on another planet because they're just throwing away all the rules of good taste and things being well made and all that it almost like horseshoes into being good somehow,
Yeah,
you know?
so bad it's good.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what it is.
That is, as they say, yeah, it is what it is. Well, thank you, Arun Brown, for coming on. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've done about 90 minutes. I think that's a good place to stop it
Solid.
there.
Solid.
Yeah, but everyone, I think pretty much everyone that's watching right now is a subscriber of yours. But if you haven't, definitely go check out RM's channel. It's fucking amazing.
Oh, thanks, and you too. You too.
Thank you
I'm
very
gonna
much.
watch more
dude.
of your stuff. I'm gonna watch more of your work.
I would say be warned. A lot of it is very very I don't know.
Very racist. Very
No,
racist.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. I would say be selective. If something looks like it might be a rabbit hole, then don't go down that rabbit hole unless you got some free time. I'll say that.
Be warned. Be warned. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in carefully.
Wear a hazmat suit. Yeah. But yeah. Thank you for coming on, man. You have a good night and talk to you soon. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, this was really fun. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later, man.
Bye bye.
Bye. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I'm going to be heading out now. Hope you enjoyed the little stream interview hango. But yeah, you guys have a good one, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out, everybody, and shout out to Lord your God for the Streamlabs. Thank you very much, dude.